Coach, you're a couple days into training camp. What are your early impressions of the team?
I think the guys are they're working hard, and that was one of the main things that I asked when everybody arrived. Need everybody to be working hard, have a good attitude, show up on time. So far everything's been going kind of as planned.
You have a lot of new players on the roster. You yourself, first-year head coach. How do you expect this team to gel and everything to come together this year?
Yeah, obviously that's a bit of a work in progress. You don't have as many returning guys as maybe you'd like or expect, but that's kind of how the ECHL goes. You have a lot of turnover, but from what I've seen so far, the guys are getting along well. I think a good opportunity for that is everybody's kind of eating all their meals together, things like that. A lot of bonding in that sense, and there seems to be guys are having fun in the locker room, out on the ice. So that's always a good sign in that manner.
The last few years, there's been a lot of veterans on these teams. I mean, you were part of last year's team. Is there an excitement though when you do get a fresh group of guys in that, hey, they're all going through this kind of together for the first time?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you have a young, inexperienced group, everybody needs to prove themselves, especially the coaching staff also. So you think towards those guys that were veterans. They came in and they established themselves and they were able to become good pros. I expect the same thing from our younger players to kind of get themselves into that position in the next year or so.
Talking big picture a little bit, what's kind of your philosophy out there on the ice? Is it going to be a little bit of the same we saw last year with K-Mac, or are you going to put your own stamp on what the guys are doing?
Obviously, Kirk and I had similar thought processes for some systematic things, so there will be some similarities there. But as far as my approach to the game, I think a lot of the guys have already figured it out. I just need everybody to be working hard. Your own personal skill set should kind of take over in those offensive situations where you can be a little bit more creative. And obviously we're only a few days into camp, so there hasn't been a ton of teaching thus far, but over the next few days we'll start to kind of get into some team system things that will kind of slowly work towards guys figuring out what our team identity will be.
Talking about the affiliation, did you get up to prospect camp or a little bit of Flyers training camp? How was kind of your end of summer?
Yeah, a little bit in with Lehigh, just kind of keeping the line of communication with them open, and obviously we've had some guys sent to us already, and hopefully they fit in well with the group. But their goal is to play at the highest level possible, and we're going to do what we can to help them get back up there.
You mentioned learning under Coach McDonald last year. You're obviously first-year head coach. What's one thing that you learned from Coach McDonald that you now carry into your position at head coach?
Yeah, obviously, in one season tried to learn as much as I could from Kirk. But a lot of those things were probably off ice. A lot of preparation things, the way that he approached the game within the coaches' room and within the locker room. There's a lot of things that I took from him, and I'm going to implement also with this group.
You have a lot of young, new players, but most of your returnees are on defense. What are your expectations for your team's defense this season?
Yeah, I think a lot of those guys did gain some experience from last season and took some big steps. You look at Dominic Cormier from his first couple of years in the league to where he's at now. Great strides and great improvements, and obviously he's one of those guys that you expect to at some point get an opportunity in the American Hockey League, and we're going to push for him to be one of our best players, and that's his expectations for himself also, to be one of the top defensemen in the league. He was right up there in goal scoring for D-men last year, and hopefully he can continue that.
Mason Millman is also back. He had a very strong season last year, especially in the second half and into the playoffs. What are your expectations for him this year?
I think same thing. I've talked to Mason about our expectations for him, and hopefully he can be one of those leaders on the back end that really dictates how this team should be playing. Like you said, he had a great second half of the season. We expect him to kind of be at that mark already, and that's also for him. He wants to be one of those guys that's utilized more up in Lehigh, and we're going to push him to become a better player and a better professional, and that's exactly what he wants to do.
Any other questions?
Yeah, no, I'm great.
All good?
Yeah.
Coach, we're
Coach.
out. Go, Matthew.
team made the playoffs last season, obviously won the first series. What will be the keys to success to make it back to the playoffs and maybe even make it farther this year?
You know, there's a lot of things that are out of your control as far as injuries and transactions, but you know, you need to get off to a good start. You know, take advantage of some of the situations that we're in at the start of the season, or at least the first portion of the year, where you only have 1 or 2 games a week, or the games are a little bit more spread apart. Because once you get into January, February, March, you know, there's not a lot of downtime. There's not a lot of time to fine-tune things within practice. So getting off to a strong start for the season is definitely key for us.
And you have some new goaltenders this season. How do you assess them so far through training camp?
Yeah, both of the goalies have been working hard. You know, it's a situation where you can only evaluate so much within practices, where some of the time you're focusing on the team structure and some of the team systems. So, you know, some of the small area games or the scrimmages, you get to evaluate a little bit more. But later on in the week, when we have exhibition games, maybe we'll get a better idea of where we're at there.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, Coach.